Hello everyone, I hope you're doing well and I hope that you're getting along well with the module. And I've received several questions about the assignment 1 from some of the students through meetings, through Twitter, through emails, and I thought I'll go through the assignment 1 into more details, and maybe this way you'll get a better understanding about what we're expecting from you. But hopefully this will clear some of your doubts that you have with the assignment 1. Now, the most important thing to keep in mind when you start the assignment is that we need to see that you first and foremost understand some of the trends in the e-commerce. So in other words, you need to know what's happening with e-commerce. You need to know what are some of the key things and key features driving e-commerce, and that is very important. Okay, so keep that in mind. Now let's dive into it straight away. Of course, you know that you need to write 2,000 words plus minus 10%. Please don't go above 2,200 words because we will not mark it if you go above that, and you will also be penalized. And also try to be as critical as you are with your own work. So in other words, as soon as you have your first draft, leave it aside for a while and then get back on it with a fresh look and see what are the things that you would cut out from your work. Okay, in other words, you've got to be very critical with it and think about if you were to mark your own work, how good would that be, right? And if you're not happy with the quality of your work, in terms of if you were to step out of your student shoes and then try to mark your own work, if you're not happy with it, then go back on it and try to do some more work. So that's just a little tip to try and do, not just with this assignment only, but also other assignments as well. Try to do this because it does really open up your thoughts and ideas depending on what you're trying to get outside the module. With the structure of the assignment, of course, section 1 title page, and make sure you have details about the course module, and as we point out in the assignment, of course it's important you do that because you will lose marks if you don't do that. So in other words, make sure that your work is presented well, is structured well, is clear, is easy to get an understanding of what you try to do, and it's also has been edited and has been finalized before you submit it. Contents of the page, of course, as you can see, you do get marks for the structure of the report, so make sure you spend some time in doing it properly because it does pay. But at the same time, it also gives you a skill that you would be using for the rest of your life. So it's not just doing this assignment, but it's about learning how you can improve your presentation skills in terms of the writing of your ideas and your work. Section 2, main findings. This is when some of you had several questions about how to deal with it and what to do about it, and so I thought I would clarify a little bit more. So the whole idea is to try and understand what are some of those innovative and creative features that companies use in their e-commerce websites to be able to improve their conversion rate. In other words, that goes with tracking products, tracking services as well, review of the product on 360 degree, making ability to add comments and review products using Facebook and social networking sites within an e-commerce site, and you've seen some of the stores, but also trying to get an understanding about how these features are playing an important role for the business. Of course, you need to make sure that you have at least 2 case studies, so then you can easily analyze both. So you need to choose both companies from the same industry, and normally that works the best. So this way, when you start to analyze different features, that does really help. And the way you could do that is that you can be as creative as you like. You can start to list some of the features in your first company and some of the features in the other company, and start to analyze both, and then build up some discussions around those features. And think about, when you have some data, think about visualizing as much as possible. Think about creating graphs and charts instead of just putting up a number, because the number doesn't mean much unless you give the content say. So make sure that you present it in a way that it's more appealing, it's more visual, and it's also something that will serve you for your future career as well. Now, of course, this third part in here after the section 2, you need to keep in mind this, that we want you to be able to reference up-to-date resources on e-commerce, and you'll get 15 marks for that. So don't waste that opportunity to get those extra marks for your own overall grade, which is going to be essential to most of you, or to all of you, because it's a final year and you're all expecting to get good grades and get good degree. Section 3. In the section 3, of course, this takes most of the marks for this assignment, and it's 40 marks, which is obviously quite a big chunk of marks in this part. Now, what you need to do in here is that you need to start to define summaries, and also make sure that you have presented some of these features into details, and then shown how much of return our companies are getting thanks to these new features that they have implemented. Now remember, when you think about the features, think about an important element, and I'm going to show you one simple thing now, which is the development phase of an e-commerce site, and that can be similar to development phase of an e-commerce feature as well. So think about specifications, so user interface, think about that. So think about what is exactly that innovative and creative feature that they have created or they plan to create. Then of course the next thing is that we talked about wireframes and design. So whenever you rebuild or redesign or build a new feature, of course there are two main things you need to keep in mind. The first is the front end design, and then the back end, which is obviously the code. And of course you need to always think that these are two different pieces of work that require two different pieces of investment in a feature, which means you need a developer and you need a designer. So those are two key elements when you start to plan and put together your time plan for the assignment. The next thing, of course, content production, but then the development and the coding. So you can see that this is when the programming guy comes in and builds the code and makes sure that whatever you put as an idea forward, he can make that happen into the website. So it's important you keep that in mind when you start to suggest the time that is needed to build these features. Remember, we've asked you for details, quite a lot of details, but we don't expect you to get all of them right. What we expect you to do is we expect you to be aware of these things, and also add some of the essential parts on this. In other words, as a result of your reading, as a result of your analysis and research that you have done, you've gained quite lots of knowledge in understanding e-commerce, and so you should be able now to say these are the features, this is the time required for the design, this is the time required for the development programming, and this is the time required for testing, and this is pretty much overall how much this would cost to a company. So don't worry too much of getting it absolutely right, because you will not be marked down on that, but you'll be marked down for not doing it. Okay, but as a result of your research and reading, I'm sure that you can get quite close to it though. Of course, the next phase is the testing. You would be thinking about the testing after you've either improved or designed a new feature. Then after that, after you've tested, you've found out bugs in the feature and whether it works or not. Then you launch the site, and in that case it can be launching the feature. This way you'll see how that is playing along with the overall e-commerce website. So this is just something to keep in mind as a circle of, or better to say, as a life cycle of developing a feature. And then of course, as soon as you have this in mind, you get a better idea about what is actually involved. The next thing is that try, as I said earlier, using the table. It does really help to bring in some insights and some ideas that you might have for the both case studies or companies that we ask you to do. Of course, again, don't forget to use Harvard referencing, because when you do that, that's when you can get another 5 marks for it, which is always a good idea. If you are planning to use appendices, please only use those that really does help you with the assignment. Don't just add everything to your appendices, because there's no point trying to use key data in the main body of the report. And then if there is something in particular interesting that you want us to look at it, then make sure you add in appendices, but don't worry too much about that. I think so far we have a better understanding of where we want to kind of go with this. But again, don't forget that some of the key things that we asked you here to do, we haven't asked you to get them 100% spot on, because we know that's not possible, because you don't work inside this company. But try to get as close as possible. In other words, try to bring in your research and the reading in this first assignment. So when you look at identifying the current e-commerce features and their success, it's not going to be very hard, because you'll see some of the features that are most popular in those websites. And then identify time needed to build these features. Of course, you're going to get most of this information by doing some of the reading that we recommended you to do, and then this one will feed you with information for presenting a time plan and the resources required to do it. So in other words, you'll see pretty much what is that we asking you to do. So the previous 2 points here, 2 bullets, will help you with creating the time plan. Now remember, the time plan is in a very good way. You can do that in a table, you can do that in chart, but table probably works the best for you, because it gives you an idea about what each company is offering, and then you can start to explore further the time needed to develop some of these features, and of course it gives you a better idea on that. Now, the next thing that you could do, of course, is start to compare and contrast some of the past and current features. Now, this is not the easy thing to do, because websites don't run into different versions, right? But if you can somehow see and compare maybe two of your companies, and see which are some of the features that are doing better in one side than the other, then it's quite a good idea. Now, excuse me, you don't have, again, backing on the servers and on these e-commerce websites, so you can't really tell into details, into numbers, but try your best to see what is that works the best in terms of the feature from the customer perspective. And again, in the end, obviously this will help you to create an overall summary of potential financial rewards that companies can gain for improving and investing in e-commerce features. Now, hopefully you've got a better understanding of it, and as I said to you, this was as a result of all sorts of questions I've got using email, Twitter, and with the student meetings that we've had so far. So I hope that was useful. Good luck with it, and all the best. Bye bye.